Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are less than 1 week away from the release of Pokemon Champions and I absolutely cannot wait to start playing this game. And one of the biggest reasons I am excited is the return of Mega Evolution. Today we are going to break down what I think the best new Mega Evolutions are in the game, and we're going to break it down based on what we have confirmed and what we don't have confirmed. We're going to start this list with the confirmed Pokemon and the confirmed abilities on these Pokemon just because it's easier to format that way, and then later on we'll get into the more speculation side of those Mega Evolutions. However, right now we are confirmed on this one, and I am super excited for Mega Frostlath. So one thing I really do want to point out here is I never thought as a VGC player I would be saying I am so excited to try out Frostlass, because like, what are we doing, right? Like, that's just not something I ever thought I would say. We now have Snow Warning, which is a phenomenal ability, guys, that has indeed been confirmed. And I think one of the biggest things you get to take advantage of that, as always, is just Blizzard, right? Its stats, respectable. It's not one of the like craziest stat lines you're going to see from Mega Evolution. But base 120 speed, being able to set your own weather, which I think is going to be huge in a format where you have stuff like Charizard going to be very prominent with weather. You're going to have a lot of rain users prominent with weather. You're going to have a lot of Tyranitar prominent with weather. Now, not that you're going to be wanting to sit in front of a Tyranitar anyways, but being able to set your own weather is very good because it's able to get around somebody switching in their weather setter, because they'll switch into their weather setter. You're going to go ahead and get your Mega Evolution animation to happen, and then the Snow Warning is going to happen, and you will still be able to remain in snow. Obviously, we saw a little bit of interesting speed interactions with those in some of the trailers, so we'll have to see if that does hold up. However, right now, based on past interactions, I do really think Snow Warning Frostlath has a lot of potential moving forward. Blizzard, of course, very strong move. Why not send it? You know what I mean? There's literally zero reason, very little drawback to using Blizzard. I will say, however, Ice Beam, also incredibly consistent. And then obviously Ghost coverage in this case. You're probably looking at Shadow Ball more often than not, right? This is kind of where I think that you're going to see Frostlass, right? And your stat line just really benefits from offensive builds, right? You've got a good fast mon, you don't have a lot of defenses, and you got a lot of special attack, right? It just makes a lot of sense to just use this thing as a big attacker. Now, of course, you do get that benefit of the snow boost when you are in snow to get that boost to your defensive stats, which also could be cool. So there is a lot to say about Frostlass here. There's a lot going on. Guys, I don't want to spend too much time looking at movesets and all that, just because nothing here is fully confirmed. However, if it does keep Auroraville as well, that's another fun one too. But once again, guys, I really just kind of want to highlight certain megas in this video, not really trying to get into cores or anything like that. We will get into them on this channel. Today is not the video for that. Really just kind of want to point out some bright shining moments right now. And I think the evolution to Frostlass here definitely could be one of them. Moving on, we are going to talk about Mega Dragonite. Now, this is one when the ability got revealed, I was actually incredibly disappointed. They had a lot of potential with this ability, and I think they could have done more with it. Yes, they chose to keep multi-scale, which, once again, not a bad ability. You get to do some cool things where you're inner focus beforehand, right? So you can wait to Mega Evolve until after the Intimidator hits the field, and then you can drop the Mega Evolution. But one thing I do want to point out with Mega Dragonite is it actually appears that they said, you know what, we want this thing to be a special attacker, right? These stats are absolutely ridiculous, okay? Like, 115, 125 in both defenses, 91 HP is like the weakest stat, is ridiculous. The one thing I am disappointed about with Mega Dragonite, and I find they do this a lot with Megas, is they randomly decide to make them like mixed attackers, right? Like 124 attack and 145 special attack. It's like you could realistically use either and both would be very good. Now I get it, right? You don't want to put this extra stuff in like maybe defense or speed, because it would just make it that much more broken. It would make it that much more of a problem. So I get why they do it. However, it would be very cool to see them like fully commit to like taking Dragonite and turning it into like a special threat. You know, drop this down to like 100 and put this up to, I don't know, like 170. Would it be broken? Probably. But it just feels like, I don't know, it just always seemed weird to me to be somewhere in between. However, regardless of that, I think one of the key things for using Mega Dragonite is actually going to be taking advantage of the special side of things, right? And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about partners, but I think Special Dragonite really benefits from something like Hurricane and maybe being on some sort of Rain Core, because you get Hurricane, you do get Thunder if you want it, but you also just get Drop Draco, right? Like Hurricane, Draco, Meteor, you could tech Extreme Speed still because you still have enough of an attack stat, right? I will put Thunder there for the sake of putting Thunder here, but there is a lot of other options on Dragonite. Obviously, nothing confirmed fully yet, but something like this is probably going to stick around. And just taking advantage of Rain and abusing the fact that, hey, now I'm a special attacker. Now I have multi-scale. Now I just drop Hurricane, right? They're going to set Rain. I'm going to send Hurricanes, and it's going to hit really, really hard, right? Hurricane is one of the best moves in the game, assuming you can control your weather. And if you're able to do that here, I think this is where the niche of Mega Dragonite fits. Just because I think going physical, you kind of lose a lot, right? Physical Dragonite, I think in this format really does appreciate something like, you know, like we saw back in Reg H with Scale Shot, like we saw with the loaded dice, right? It really does appreciate that inner focus, loaded dice, right? Can't get intimidated. You get all that good stuff without needing to waste your Mega. Right, you can have a different Mega slot and then still have a Dragonite. I'm not saying Mega Dragonite is bad, but I think where we're really going to see it is on those Rain teams utilizing that special attack, right? Once again, guys, I'm not going to showcase EVs. They're reworking that whole system. We'll get a video on that when we do. But I think you really want to be looking at this special attack stat on this Dragonite, and I think it's still going to be very good. Could it have been better, you know, with a better ability than Multiscale? Possibly. Could it have been better, you know, if they just committed to the physical side? Possibly. You never really know with these things, right? We're so early on, but I am very excited to try to use Dragonite because I do think the special side is a very intriguing option for this Pokemon that it never really got a chance to capitalize on before. Moving on, I think everybody is going to hate me for this, but I have to bring up Meganium. And I think Meganium is still a bad Pokemon, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about it just because if this ability works in the way that I believe, or that everybody is believing that this ability works, it's going to have a niche. It is going to be usable. It is not going to be broken like everybody online is saying right now. It's like, oh, Meganium, it's so good. Y'all are sleeping on it. Guys, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be the best Pokemon in the format. I don't think it'll ever be that. But I will admit that the ability, if it works the way we plan on it working, it will make it worth something, right? And effectively, the ability, for those that may not know, is that Mega Soul, sorry, I should say as the ability name, treats it as if you are always in Sun, which is very good because that means Solar Beam, you do not have to take a turn to charge because Meganium always believes it is in Sun. So assuming it works that way in other weathers as well, you are just dropping Solar Beams, and that is very, very strong. Weather Ball also becomes intriguing because if Meganium is always in Sun, in theory, this is always a 100 base power fire move that is also boosted by the Sun. So it really just depends on the interactions here, right? And then, of course, you know, maybe if Pelipper's on the field. So if Meganium thinks that it's in Sun and it's actually raining, this is where we're really not sure of these interactions. Right? Let's say, you know, you're in the rain because there's a Pelipper on the other side of the field and Meganium thinks it's always in Sun. Is this going to work in a way where Weather Ball is a fire move but is only base 100 power and then nerfed by rain, even though Meganium thinks it's in Sun? Once again, that would be a really weird interaction for it to consist of when the ability literally states that Meganium always thinks it's in Sun or is always treating its attacks as if it's in Sun. However, if it does work in a normal way, you know, I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be solid. Of course, you also get the shout out for, you get Dazzling Gleam. I know it says illegal, guys, but trust me, it does get Dazzling Gleam. We saw it in Legends ZA. It will get Dazzling Gleam moving forward, or at least some decent fairy move for sure. They're not just going to add fairy type to a Mega and then not give it a fairy move. That would be ridiculous. But overall, I don't love Dazzling Gleam, but if you're going to add a fairy type, you might as well have Dazzling Gleam. And guys, I'm going to be honest, historically speaking, Grass Fairy is not doing this Pokemon any favors. Like, I would straight up have been happier if it was straight grass with this ability. I think it would be so much better. Like, without a lie, if this was a straight grass Pokemon, Meganium I think would be actually busted. I actually think the fairy typing, which, you know, I'm not going to say too often because fairy type is normally broken, but I actually think the fairy typing is hurting it more than it's helping it here, right? Just, you know, you got Sneasler in this metagame already, right? Just Mega Gengar as well, right? Just prominent poison type users that are just going to hinder this because, like, you can EV to live, you know, a super effective attack, but when it's 4 times super effective, it becomes a problem. Right? We saw it back in the day with Tapu Bulu, guys. I've been around too long, and I hate to say it, but Grass Fairy might be a bit more of a hindrance than a helpfulness here. But overall, I am excited to try it because if it does work properly, it actually is going to probably be pretty good, right? Like, its stat line is decent, right? It's a bulky piece. It doesn't have a lot of speed, doesn't have a lot of attack stat. It does get that special attack, which is what you want, right? And this is why I'm saying, because you're a bulky Pokemon, right? Meganium isn't the fastest piece. It's not the heaviest hitting piece. It's meant to be that kind of all around. It's meant to have that bulk. But when you're a bulky Pokemon with a 4 times weakness, it kind of hinders it. I would have much rather they just kept it a grass type. But overall, Meganium probably going to be usable. It's going to be around. It's not going to be the master class that everybody's saying it is, I don't think. But it's going to be a very, very good Pokemon, and you will be seeing it, especially if that ability works the way we expect it to work. Moving on, we are going to talk about Delphox, and I think a lot of players dismissed Delphox once they saw that its ability was Levitate. And I might be one of the few players that's actually happy that Delphox got Levitate for 2 reasons. One, the Psy-Spam players are incredibly angry right now because you cannot take advantage of Psychic Terrain while being clicking Expanding Force, right? Of course, you could do like cool gravity things, but that takes a long time to set up, right? So you don't get boosted Expanded Force because you are levitating, which honestly is probably healthy for the game. If it would have been 134 speed, 159 special attack with boosted Expanding Forces, I think that would have been absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, they didn't give it a useless ability, right? Delphox now having Levitate actually gives it a unique advantage, right? You're able to get around those ground types in the format. And guys, spoiler alert, there is going to be a lot of them. We've seen Garchomp, we've seen Excadrill, right? Mega Golurk is a thing, obviously. I don't even want to bring that up. I don't even know what ability it gets, if it gets an ability yet. We have no clue what's going on there. But there's going to be a lot of ground types. And Levitate on a fire type is just naturally strong. You know, you can't really deny that. And maybe you put this on a sun team now. So now you no longer have a water weakness because you're into sun. You no longer have a ground weakness because you are levitating. Right? Do I think it's an amazing ability for it? No. But I think it's definitely far from useless. Right? Its stat line very much so reminds me of like a Fluttermane stat line. And guys, I'm not calling it this a Fluttermane. I don't want you guys going around and being like, Ryan said Delphox is basically a Fluttermane. That's not what I said. That is not what I said. But if 135, 135, 135 works for Fluttermane, surely 159, 125, 134 can work for Delphox. It's got more defenses as well than the Fluttermane. Obviously not as cool of a typing, not quite as fast, can't take advantage of like a booster energy or anything like that. However, Delphox overall, I definitely think there is something here. Despite everybody kind of being disappointed in Levitate, I still think Levitate is actually a very good ability for this Pokemon, despite not necessarily being as broken as everybody may have wanted it to be. Before we continue, guys, this is once again just your disclaimer. We are now moving into a little bit more speculation in terms of abilities. So if you are here for non-spoiler content or spoiler-free content, this is your warning. You've been warned. And now we are going to continue with the video. The next one that I think has potential for one of the most broken Pokemon in the game, or one of the most broken Megas in the game, is actually going to be Mega Meowstic. Now, Mega Meowstic is actually rumored right now to be getting Psychic Surge. And if Mega Meowstic gets Psychic Surge and Expanding Force on its own, it is going to be incredibly, incredibly strong. It also gets access to Earth Power, at least right now it does, currently. Whether or not that stays when the game comes out next week, we are yet to see. We don't even know if Psychic Surge is real yet. But if it does get Psychic Surge, it is very, very intriguing. Like, you get a stat line that is ridiculously broken. You are fast, you have a decent chunk of bulk, why not? And you just get, special attack not incredibly high, but Meowstic female does get the ability competitive. So maybe you have it on the field, they want to switch in like an Intimidator, and then all of a sudden you get the +2, then you drop your Mega. All of a sudden now you're at +2 base 124 speed, dropping Expanding Forces in terrain. And why Psychic Surge on a Mega Evolution Pokemon is so intriguing to me is similar to the weather that we have. We now have that kind of mind game with the terrains, right? So normally to stop something like Psy Spam, people would swap into Rillaboom and then the terrain would go away, right? Obviously Rillaboom's not confirmed, but let's just say you're going to swap in your other terrain setter. But now you're going to swap in your terrain setter and then Meowstic is going to Mega and reset that Psychic Surge. And all of a sudden that is huge counterplay to an entire archetype that is no longer available to be used strictly because of you have to wait for them to Mega first. Now, obviously, they do need to Mega to get the Psychic Surge in the first place, so it becomes a little bit of a mind game. But Psychic Surge is going to be very strong on Meowstic, right? Obviously, tough to say fully what moveset it's going to get into, but it should get Expanding Force, and if it does keep Earth Power to start dealing with like the Steel types that would want to switch in to the Psychic Surge or the Psychic moves, right? Earth Power potentially has a lot of capabilities of punishment there as well as a cool tech move, right? And you just get a lot, right? Like your speed stat is so quick. It's obviously not like the fastest thing, but you're faster than Mega Charizard. And anytime I don't know, that to me, that's like the cutoff point, right? Because Mega Charizard Y is so strong that it's going to be one of the key points in the meta. So anytime you can say, well, I'm faster than Mega Charizard Y, and I'm going to be honest with you, if Expanding Force goes as planned with Psychic Surge, you're probably doing 90% to it, assuming you're not getting a boost or any other change to that pattern, right? So anytime you can potentially threaten an Oko into one of the dominant Pokemon in the metagame, you are going to be good. And once again, similar to that all special side stat line and then the weaker on the defensive sides, I think it's a relatively balanced way to approach things because this can still get punished, right? 74-76 is not good in terms of defenses, right? So you are capable of punishing it, but if it does actually get Psychic Surge, guys, it's going to be very good. It is going to be one of the best Megas in the game coming out of the ZAs. Moving right along, we now have Baxcalibur, guys, and once again, this thing is going to be good. I don't care what ability they give it. This is going to be a good Pokemon. In fact, there's been talks about, back into coding that Dragon Claw now gets boosted by Sharpness. No one's really sure if that's going to be because Mega Garchomp Z gets Sharpness or Mega Baxcalibur is going to get Sharpness. I don't think Baxcalibur can really take advantage of it fully. It would really only be the Dragon Claw that would get boosted by Sharpness, so it would kind of be a little weird. However, I could see them doing it. So Sharpness would be a cool ability, potentially. I think there's also concepts. I believe it was Kylan who was talking about this in his video, and I believe he said that it would be cool if it was a clear amulet kind of item, like a clear body, where you wouldn't be able to get intimidated, because that's what made Baxcalibur go, right? And being able to now Intimidate cycle this is definitely something that is intriguing. However, coming off a base 175, you're really going to need a few Intimidates for it to really start being a problem, right? So maybe some sort of clear body would be wild. Would it be broken? Yes. However, it is intriguing. I am very, very intrigued. If you guys are interested in Kylan's video, I will leave that down below for you guys, so feel free to check that out. But overall, this thing's just a wall of stats, guys. There's really not much more to say. This thing is a wall of stats. It's going to hit hard. It's going to have bulk. And it's going to be good. Ice Dragon is a strong typing. Especially, once again, similar to, like I said, with the Levitate. There's going to be a lot of ground types. And being able to punch through those with ice type moves, going to be very, very strong. Moving on, guys, really quickly, we are just going to quickly talk about some of the Mega Evolutions that I think have a lot of potential. But we really have no idea as to what their abilities are going to be. And I think I'm going to just show the Raichu Y version. I think both have a chance here, so I will put that into the universe depending on abilities that they get. Obviously, the server that I'm on has hinted at Surge Surfer. I don't know if I like that, and I think if it gets Surge Surfer, they're probably just both going to be bad. So I'd be hoping that they're going to give them something a little bit different, right? But Mega Raichu on the Y side would absolutely be a glass cannon, guys. You are just going to send attacks with 130 speed. 160 special attack is absolutely nothing to laugh at. And once again, I think there's a niche for actual electric types in this format right now. There's not many. I would love to see this Pokemon get something like electric terrain. Even if they give it to Raichu X, guys, I talk about both inherently. Yes, I know their stats are different, but I am talking about both at the same time. If one of them gets electric terrain, I think it really could be cool counterplay with Terrain Wars as well. Speaking of the Meowstic that we mentioned earlier, right? So that would be something to consider. But let me know on all of these Pokemon, guys, what we think kind of abilities we think they may be getting, as well. What ability would they need to get to actually be usable, right? I think electric terrain on one of the Raichus would be really, really, really cool, right? So I definitely want to see that. Once again, going to go over these ones a little bit quicker, guys. And Mega Lucario Z, I am actually really, really happy with Mega Lucario Z. I'm not sure in terms of what ability I would want it to have. People have talked about like Dazzling, which stops priority. That might be a little bit too much. People have talked about Prankster as well. There's a lot going on in a lot of discussions, but I haven't really seen anything that's like really been like, yeah, that to me makes a lot of sense for this Pokemon. So we're definitely going to have to wait and see. But I'm just happy that we finally have a Lucario that's actually going to be usable on the special side. Now, Lucario's always been that like mixed attacker, right? So now having the ability that it really doubles down in and can actually probably get KOs on the special side of things now with 164 special attack, I think this is going to be a very strong Pokemon, right? 151 speed, incredibly, incredibly strong, right? You don't need defenses when you have 151 speed. I'm going to be honest with you, right? You put this thing maybe beside like a Farigiraf or a different priority blocker, right? Or maybe like everybody's speculating, they're going to give it, you know, a priority blocking ability. That would be kind of cool, right? So there's a lot going on here. I think this stat line is very good to be just, I'm going to get to a spot and I'm going to send damage and I'm going to kill things, right? Very glass cannon-like. But I think there's potential to do that, and I think they did this right, depending on the ability they end up giving it. Skarmory is an interesting one. People are actually talking about good as gold online right now. I'm not sure if I'm convinced if that's accurate, if I agree that that's what's going to come out here. But overall, your stat line, it's modest. Your biggest concern, your HP stat. You know, you'd probably just run max HP on this, and depending on what you get, like you don't need a lot of power for the 140 attack. Like you don't need a lot of attack investment. You can do a lot with this Pokemon. 110 speed is very strong, right? Once again, putting on pressure, right? You do a lot with this Pokemon. It's got a lot of good stats. Like I said, the one stat I don't like is the HP. Otherwise, that's super fixable. And if it does get a really broken ability like Good as Gold or something else similar, even if it were to get like, I don't know what else it would get. Like, obviously Good as Gold is good, but like maybe you give it like, I'm not going to say like huge power because that would be incredibly broken, right? But maybe something like Filter could be cool as well for Skarmory, right? Just make it, boost those, utilize those defenses, right? You know, you have a defensively oriented Pokemon that can now go on offense, right? Utilize those defenses a little more, but still be able to go on offense. I think there's potential there. So there's a lot to be said on this ability because it's just so up in the air right now that it has potential to be good, guys. Crabominable. This one's interesting, and I am strictly going to talk about this one because right now I've heard a few rumors. And once again, guys, no validity to any of these rumors, if anything is true or anything like that. But there is contrary. I have seen contrary being floated around. And basically, for those who don't know what contrary does, is it would basically, if you get stat changes, it does the reverse of that. So if I get an attack drop, I'm actually getting an attack boost. If I'm getting an attack boost, however, I would get an attack drop. So you would end up running this Pokemon with something like Close Combat, and instead of getting a defense drop on both sides, you would get a defense boost in both sides, which would be very interesting in terms of big damage coming out on the Mega End, and then you can't get intimidated because that would just be boosting your attack, right? I don't think fighting ice is like a good typing. However, there is interesting to say if it does get contrary, and that's pretty much the only reason I'm here talking about Crabominable, is strictly because if it does get this kind of talked about ability, there's a chance. Obviously, it's a pretty good Trick Room sweeper, right? It's got the stats to be an absolute menace in Trick Room, and that's, you know, minus very low speed, good bulk, great attack stat, right? And if you can't intimidate the 157, it's going to be a threat. It's going to be a very strong Pokemon to have to try to get around, especially in a Trick Room oriented game plan. So if it does get contrary, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here with this. It's going to be very good. Otherwise, it'll probably still be all right, but it really depends on what ability they give it. And the last one I want to talk about today is actually going to be Golisopod. And Golisopod is a ball of stats. Okay, similar to the Baxcalibur, Golisopod is always a ball of stats. It always has been a ball of stats. The only thing keeping it down is emergency exit. And basically you get hit to half HP and you have to switch out, which sucks. Now, could you use it back in the day to like some cool ways to get around things? Yeah, you absolutely could. However, you're always so slow that you tend to get down to the emergency exit, get kicked out before you can really do anything. So if they give this Pokemon anything other than emergency exit, I think there is a lot of potential for this ball of stats to do really, really well. Once again, Trick Room oriented, because, you know, you're going to want to be in that Trick Room with base 40 speed, right? You don't want to be doing much outside of Trick Room. Overall, though, there is a lot of potential, I think, in Golisopod, guys. There's all kinds of other megas as well that I haven't even gone over. Of course, guys, please let me know your thoughts down below on anything I may have missed. Clearly, guys, there's tons of good megas. I know I can't get them all in a video, but I didn't want to get this one going past the 30-minute mark. So I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in to the way too early edition of the best Mega Evolutions in Pokemon Champions. Let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, guys, if you guys do enjoy this type of content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And of course, I really do appreciate it. But with that, I'm going to get out of here and I'll catch you all in a future video.